Hey guys, welcome back to our series on building a shop in an old shed. This is part 2, and if you haven't seen the first part, I'm turning this old 8x12 shed into a shop that I can use over the winter time and have it be heated and warm and protected from the elements. So, in the first part of this series, I worked on repairing some of the floor and some of the previous damage that it had sustained over the years. And in this part of the series, I'm going to be working on the exterior of the shed. I'm going to leave a link in the description to the series if you'd like to watch this in its entirety. But for the moment, let's get started here on the exterior. Now, I had mentioned in the previous video that I probably would have been better off leaving some of the siding intact. This was T111 siding that the person who built this shed secured very well. I had quite a difficult time removing, but eventually it all came off. I had torn off probably 2 or 3 sheets when I thought maybe I could have cut some sort of a skirting around the bottom and just removed the bottom 1 or 2 feet that were the rotten pieces, but eventually it all came off, and I'm happy now that we've got brand new OSB siding on there. Sorry, sheeting. Years of neglect and a sagging foundation has led to the shed having a bit of a lean and being out of plumb, so I decided to try to use the come along here attached to one of our fence posts that's buried just to help pull it back into plumb, and it worked fairly well. Part of my desire to reside the shed was also for aesthetic and practical purposes. I knew that I wanted to replace the windows, and I wanted to situate them better for what my needs entailed. There was one window on the north-facing wall that really didn't serve any purpose, and it kind of took up valuable space inside the shed as far as what I could store up against it. And it was really quite a heat sink as the windows weren't properly insulated, being just a shed. So there were also 2 windows on either gable end up in the lofted area, and I really didn't see a purpose for those anymore either. In the summertime they could be vented to help remove some heat, but what I really wanted to do was add some windows on the east and south facing walls to help bring in some more natural light, and just to make it more pleasing, as that'll be the area where my workbench will be situated. This did create a bit of complications just because of poor planning on my part. As you've already seen, I have sheeted the east and south walls where the windows will be. And part of the reason for that was we were expected to get some poor weather, and I wanted to have the shed enclosed as much as possible. And I thought that I could go about framing for the window openings from the inside of the shed without much of a problem, and then just cut the window openings out afterwards. But because the loft was framed up on the existing studs, it created some issues for placing new studs in the position they had to be for the window openings. It wasn't impossible, but it was a little bit more challenging, and it would have been better off just leaving the sides exposed, framing everything up so that I could get at it from both sides, and sheeting afterwards. So all in all, a little bit more challenging, but it still got done. After I had the windows in, I wanted to start working on the trim. These windows had an integral J-channel that surrounded them, and the siding that I chose was only 7/16 of an inch thick, so there'd be an odd gap between the J-channel and the siding, and I wanted to make it look a little bit more pleasing. So I decided to do the trim first and then do the siding around the trim. This way the trim is not over the siding, so there's a potential area of water infiltration, but I'll be sure and to go back and caulk that when the weather is a little bit more cooperative. There's going to be quite a bit of caulking, but this way I get a nice good trim along the windows. Now this siding is it's called a Smart Side engineered panel. It comes in both lap siding, shakes. I chose the panel just because it was the cheapest option, and it actually matched what we have for the house. The nice thing is that if we ever decided to do a different type of siding for the house and we wanted to match it with the shed, you can just side right over this without any issues. It does have a bit of a texture, and it's 4-inch on center. It's got a 4-inch on center bead. We are planning on painting this next summer to match the original red color that the shed was when my dad lived in it while he was building his house. We always refer to it as the little red shed, so it'll be nice to get it back to its original color and give it an opportunity to retake on that moniker. Now the last few things I had to take care of with the exterior was replacing some of the rotten fascia. I think about 80% of it was rotten, so I just ended up replacing it. And this wasn't a big deal, it's just that it was starting to get pretty cold out, so you can see I'm pretty bundled up, and it's a little bit harder to work with bulky clothes and big gloves on, but this was fairly quick. And then I just had to set about doing the roofing. I chose to do galvanized pro rib steel roof. It matches what we have on the house. I like the way it looks. I like the way it sounds in the rain. I like the way the snow comes off it in the wintertime. I just think it looks really clean and classy. So I definitely wanted to make sure that it matched the house, and this was fairly cheap, but it went up quite a bit faster than doing new shingles, so that's an added bonus, and it should last quite a bit longer. So this was a pretty quick and easy project to get the roof on. It just kind of stunk that it was so cold. Alright guys, with the last of the roof going on, that's going to wrap up part 2 in our series of building a shop from an old shed. In part 3, I'm going to take you through what I did to the interior to get that usable, so stay tuned for that. If you have any questions or comments on this video, please leave me a note in the comment section below. Otherwise, I'll see you back here for part 3. Thanks for watching.